We've talked about believing that more is possible for us, not because we strive, but because God is faithful. So today I want to bring all of that together because having a vision is beautiful, but it is meant to be lived, not just imagined. It's to be lived out, not just kept in our head as a dream. So let's talk about building a beautiful, blessed life, which is in alignment to the vision that God has put into our hearts. This episode is about how we can live with what God has shown you. God calls us to live peacefully, faithfully, without striving and hustle. Over the last few episodes, we've talked about possibilities, opportunities, the calling that God's placed over our hearts, and how we can start building a vision for that. We've talked about believing that more is possible for us, not because we strive, but because God is faithful. So today I want to bring all of that together because having a vision is beautiful, but it is meant to be lived, not just imagined. It's to be lived out, not just kept in our head as a dream. This episode is an invitation for you to start taking the daily steps to actually start living the life that God has placed in your heart and to live it with peace and faith and trust. Having a vision, it doesn't require us to start rushing and to start hustling through. It just allows us to see what's actually possible for us. And yes, it can be tempting to try and rush through to get to the end goal. It can lead us to think that I need to change everything, that I need to do more, that I need to act right now. But know that God was never rushed. He doesn't rush us. He doesn't come with urgency. God gave us the vision. God's vision for us, it comes with clarity because He is not a God of chaos. He is a God of clarity, and He wants to make sure that you are steady and anchored into that vision. But He will give you the daily steps to start living that out, to start moving you steadily towards what you can see. He's not causing you to be frantic in your decision making. He's not asking you to just be chaotic and a whirlwind and do things the world way. He calls you to slow down. And if God has shown you something for your future, He will make room for it in your life. And I know as foster carers, we can feel like we just don't have the time or space to actually be able to create that. But if you're listening to this today, just know that God will make room in your life. Trust me on this one. So you don't need to chase what He has already prepared in your heart. You just need to start getting aligned. And alignment comes from taking the daily steps, from actually putting in the work. And a blessed life, it isn't built by doing everything, by being there for everybody, by always serving everybody and taking away from you. But a blessed life is built on doing the right things in the right order, in the right seasons, at the right time. And when we start to act each and every day in alignment, it actually starts to bring up some powerful questions for us. So I'm going to ask them for you now, but I'm also going to put them in the description. So come back, ask yourself, does this support the life that I'm building? Does this protect my peace? Does this honor my faith, my family, and my calling? Sometimes the most faithful action or answers to some of those questions is actually no. Sometimes we just need to take time to rest. Sometimes it's choosing simplicity over striving and hustle and hard. Sometimes peace is actually the reward. Sometimes peace isn't actually the reward at the end of that journey. Sometimes it's just having moments of peace along the way. Moments that you can be anchored into your faith. Moments that you know that the answer to those questions come from a place of reflecting with God. And knowing that you're not just trying to do it to please the outside world, but you're doing things for God, for His glory. And they may just come in small, faithful steps. And honestly, they can change everything. And I've shared some of my journey across this season. I've shared about having my own vision, about my growth journey, the stability that is created, but also the abundance and overflow. And over the past 7 years, I know that these haven't come in big leaps. These have come from small, aligned decisions that have been made consistently, and I've always taken every question back to the foot of the cross. And if it doesn't align with the calling that God has over my life, then I say no to things, and I've got more comfortable saying no, trying to please other people, and saying yes to the things that God actually wants me to do. So I've learned how to create pockets of faithfulness in my everyday life. I've learned how to walk in obedience in the everyday, in the ordinary. I've learned how to trust in the unseen when I've wanted to say yes to worldly things, but I've listened to God. And when I felt that nudge that says no, I've had to learn to say no to those things. And God has redirected me. And I've come to learn that God works powerfully through those steady hands and the willing hearts, willing to Him, not to please the outside world. So, no, you don't need to know the whole plan. He's not going to give you a full roadmap, but He is going to give you the next right step. And just like in the Father's prayer, it says, "Give us today our daily bread." And that's exactly what God does. He gives us our daily bread that we need to get through today. He doesn't just burden us with so much that we feel overwhelmed and unsupported. No, He wants us to have a blessed life, and a blessed life feels supported. It doesn't feel strained. So we can often imagine a blessing as something being big and dramatic and bold, but more often than not, a blessing, it feels like provision at the right time. It feels like peace during uncertain seasons. It feels like doors opening. It feels like we are being protected. It feels like situations get removed from us and we have strength to say no to things that don't align with us. Blessings can often feel like strength when you need it the most. Joy that doesn't need an explanation. And if you're building a life right now and it feels heavy all the time, you're allowed to pause and realign and say no to things. I know that God's calling, it may be stretching you, but it won't crush you. But if you're trying to please the outside world too much, that's when you're going to feel crushed. That's when things are going to feel heavy. So today is the invitation to live life in God's calling, not just for the outside world. So if you've listened through this season and you felt something stir within you, if you felt a sense of hope or clarity or courage, let this be your permission to live boldly for God in His calling for you. Now, no one's expecting perfection from you. No one's expecting you to have it all figured out. No one's expecting you to do everything at once. But also, no one's expecting you to do everything for everybody else. No one's expecting you to say yes to the outside world and say no to yourself. So live faithfully, lead your home with intention, and build your life with trust. Let God guide the pace over the calling on your life. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not meant to struggle your way into blessings. You're meant to follow God's calling over your life and trust in His voice, trust in His guidance. And as this season comes to a close, my hope is that you feel steadier, lighter, and more hopeful for what's ahead of you. You are allowed to build a beautiful life, and you are allowed to enjoy what God is building with you. You are allowed to walk forward peacefully. So thank you for being here and for listening and for the work that you do each and every day. I pray that your vision holds you steady. I pray that God walks with you and shows you each step for you to take. I pray that you do not doubt yourself, you do not live in fear, and I pray that you put your desires of your heart before the outside world.